Hello, hello, hello. I hope everybody's having an awesome, great weekend. This is 50 pips, 19th of January, 2014. I'm not making any trade calls or recommendations because you and only you are responsible for the trades you may decide to take. The fact you're listening to this means you've read, you understand, you accept all the disclosures on the website, and understand that we're just doing these to provide some technical analysis for educational purposes only. So what's going on? I'm going to do a little session focused on Forex pairs today. Just keep in mind that as we're going into the new week, Martin Luther King Day in the US, so the US markets are closed. Monday night, so in the overnight session, we've got some China data coming out, but otherwise, Monday could be quite a bit of a quiet day, wheeling and dealing, a classical Monday. But keep in mind that this week is going to be pretty interesting because we have had some moves in the Forex market, and on Tuesday, we've got ZEW coming out of Germany. Then when we go into Wednesday, we got a bunch of GPB stuff going out, from unemployment rate to MPC stuff coming out. We also have Bank of Canada on the wires on Wednesday. On Thursday, we've got all the PMIs coming out, et cetera, all the way into Friday with some CPIs out of CAD too. So we do have quite a bit of data, so we could see some movement. So what's going on? I think the what everybody's looking at is going to be euro and cable, and euro is quite interesting. I posted this chart later on in the day on Friday saying, we were coming into a very important support zone, right? Now, with this kind of open here, and we closed the daily very heavy, you'd expect to see some kind of gap down action in the overnight open, and it's going to be interesting to see if that gets any legs or not. Okay, going into the week, don't forget that essentially this was that choppy range we were witnessing, which was 36.50, 36, 35.50. We talked about that a lot on Twitter. It was a range. We saw the market moving there. It tried to break above, it couldn't hold, and it just stayed in this area. So going into the week, if the shorts want to keep pressure on, they really have to keep price below these 35.50s, ideally below the 35.20s to start the week to keep pressure on. If we go into the week and we're right back above the 35.50s, then we could see a lot of chopping right back into this range. This could just be a bit of a fake out, and we could go back into very, very choppy action until we find direction. Okay, so I'll look at the downside in a second, but keep in mind that that's going to be very important to see how we open, especially if we open down and the pressure is on, it could get a bit aggressive and it can continue catching some momentum. But the main point for me is if it can't find any legs to the downside and we open back above, coming into London Open, we're holding above 35.50, then don't be surprised if this is back in some kind of a sideways chop range. Now, on the daily chart, a lot of people pointed out when I posted that chart, that was just a 1 hour, intraday tactical chart. We were coming into this 100 moving average, and we talked about this in the past. We said that once we were holding below this 36 level, basically the 34.50s would attract. So when I was talking about downside, especially now, if we start opening below this 100 and we hold there, and as we said, looking at the other chart, with the downside pressure is sustained right from the beginning of the week, don't be surprised to see this going all the way back down into the 34.50, 34.00 support. If we range more of the same, if we get traction, we pop above those 37s, then I'd be looking at 37.50s, 37.70s. So really, we're in this choppy range on the daily, failed to break, to hold new high. It's holding heavy. Clearly, it's under pressure. It's pressure, but there's support. If, because we're doing this for the week, we go into the week and we get below these 34s and you see this going knife through butter below the 34.00, breaking below the 200 on the daily, this is most likely not the kind of move you want to stay stubbornly long with. But I would suspect that somewhere, even if we get selling pressure, we would catch a bid around these 34s with this 200 coming into it. So at the moment, I wouldn't be surprised to see more of the same, and for this broader chop area to continue capping it. So we'll have to see what happens, but that's the way I'm looking at it going into the week. Cable, What's going on cable? So basically, much to do about nothing, right? We're still holding this range, and what we kept on saying is any move back into this 63.50s was essentially a buy for us, and that the only way we could really get bearish was if we started to get daily closes below the 62.50, as this 63.50, 62.50 was a major chop zone. But even though it was under pressure, unless we're trading back below, we'd have to expect that the velocity of move would be for presses back to the upside. So after we had that move on Friday, it's very rare to see that reverse intraday at least. So going into the week, more of the same. There are a lot of people discussing about the fundamentals and what to expect out of data. I'm just looking at the chart, right? So it's still choppy. Clearly, it's failing to make higher highs. It keeps on getting sold, but it's going to be interesting how we open, because if we catch a bit early, then I really wouldn't be surprised to see it back in 166s. This is a massive chop zone, so very little edge trying to trade tight inside this area, I feel, because it could be very volatile. I think it's still better to position for the bigger breaks, and like Euro, once we get some big breaks, they will probably have some legs. But at the moment, again, the way I'm going into the week is support 63.50, resistance 66s, and it's a lot of chop inside this area, but it looks like it still has some unresolved business to the upside to me. Now, speaking of those, another chart I wanted to talk about, because I've been posting these on the blog for a while, and I keep on getting questions, so I just wanted to discuss them a bit more in terms of some possible swing moves that we've been looking at for quite some time, really. One is GBP/CHF, right? And we talked about this whole chart and the fact that it looked very, very bid to us, and especially, all the way since last year, once we started to hold this area twice, right? We made a big press in low February, March, and market tried to rally, got sold at the 200 on the daily, came right back down, had every excuse to really get some traction to the downside. The bids came in, supported again back. We're above the 200. We come back down, the 200 supports. Even though it's getting sold hard, the 200 keeps supporting. And then when we put in this double bottom here and back over the 200, it looked like the gates were really open for us to really rally back and try to make a big break, possibly back up into the 154 level. So right here, the first pivotal level we had in this break was 148.10s, right? 148.10s, big pivotal level, big resistance that got sold very aggressively 3 times in the past. And then once we broke it, double bottom, bam, it came in and it kept on catching a bid. So as long as we're holding above this area, we're looking for the action to take place around these 49.90s. And the only thing I'm saying, especially if we start to see daily closes above these 49.90s, so back in the 150s, we could be setting up for a nice little swing. So again, haven't changed outlook on this chart. I've posted a couple of times on the blog, but really, especially since the double bottom, we're looking for the potential for a move back into the 154s. Another interesting one with cable catching wrong one, with GBP catching a strong bid and Australian dollar very, very heavy, is the GBP AUD. So this is another very interesting chart, and we're right back at a super interesting level, right? So you see what's happened. We were very, very aggressively, strong downtrend. We come back here and we start to base, right? A number of fake out plays, and we start to rotate back up. And what happens? We're slowly making our way all the way back up into this sell zone that got sold very, very aggressively, and we're holding the breakout. We're holding above this area. Now you'll see that the 2 moving averages are starting to cross. So again, this is also a very nice chart setting up for potentially very, very big moves, and especially if GBP continues to catch a bid across the board, and RBA and keeps on pressing the Australian dollar down, talking down the dollar. This could be another very, very interesting swing. And again, been posted on a blog quite a few times, I believe, and no big change, but I just wanted to explain that a bit more. And then last but not least, but still in the same theme, is the Euro AUD. And again, this is an interesting chart. So the thing I'd be looking at here is how we behave around these 154.70s. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking at a daily close above these recent highs here to confirm our outlook for a move back into the 163.70s. It's a very big swing, and again, very similar dynamics across the board. You see the moving averages are starting to cross, so these could be very, very interesting moves. Again, not pairs I would tend to trade intraday, but I think, in terms of position trades or bigger trades, they're very interesting. And again, since I've posted the charts a couple of times, I thought it would be good to explain them a bit more because it's been a while. Another thing I wanted to mention is I'm starting to plan a live webinar just to go through the charts in general, like a 1 hour free session. So if anybody has any preferred times or something, just send me put a comment on the blog, because I'm just wondering whether it's better to do it on a Sunday as we usually did, or if we're going to do it towards the end of New York session one day. So again, any comments on the blog, welcome. I might put out a poll depending on how many people put comments on me to let me know. The plan is to do it on a Sunday, but again, if I see a lot of people, a lot of show of hands saying that they might like to do it towards a New York close one day, we'll try and sort it out for that. Okay, so hope you enjoyed the session. Forex based. If you like the content, don't be shy about sharing it or retweeting it or whatever. Have an awesome one. Don't forget, again, US markets closed on Monday, and could be a very interesting day-to-day data week ahead. Okay, have an awesome one. Take care, guys. Bye.